Sweet. Okay, hopefully in a minute you should be able to see Radiant. Well, I've just realised I'm on a delay on I, so as I'm talking. I'm going to turn this down a little bit on my end if possible. I think I'll turn that for everyone. Well, so I don't know if you know how to get to the dev tools. You probably do, but they'll be in your in the root of your ProjectRIK folder. You have a RIK dev. Start that up, and you'll get this tool. If you hit Start Radiant, it'll open Radiant, and you can start creating a map. So from the offset, you don't need to worry too much about skyboxes. If you do quick compile, it will sort out the skyboxes for you. So at the start, you can just ignore skyboxes. I presume you kind of roughly know that it's a 3D view. So you know, as you're drawing this box here, it's obviously not that shape. You have to use tab to rotate around the different ways and adjust it. Okay, cool, so you know a little bit. Sweet. So generally the things I would say is I like to use, depending on what sort of map I'm using, I like to use between a grid size of 5 and 7. So I tend to just start with 5. If you click on a box and drag it, you'll move it around. If you click next to it, like anywhere above it, you'll move it around. Generally you don't want overlapping blocks, and you don't want to go off grid. So if I was to go grid and go down to like 0.25 or something, or turn off snap select to grid or whatever, it didn't stay on grid, it would not come out very good. You'll just stay on grid. There should be very few times that you need to come off grid. The only times I've ever needed to do it is when I'm doing curves with surf, and even then it's just a ball ache, so I really wouldn't bother. Always stay on grid. Textures, this button here, hide unused, it will means that it'll only show the ones you've got already used in your map. It's quite helpful. So what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to start by applying the base texture, which is just base, apply to selection, and it's now going to appear in here for me to select. Let's start by making a bit of a floor, shall we? So I usually go with something like, sorry by the way, there's a bit of noise behind me, I'm having the roof done, so I usually go with something like a 64 block. I quite like 64, some people go thinner. I'm not even sure what view I'm on. I should probably work that out, shouldn't I? XY, okay, so this is... Okay, cool, yes, this is stop, okay. So let's go for something like... I don't know what I want. I'm just going to guess here, right? So we're just going to go with 64 width floor. Should be about right. Yeah, whatever. 320 should be good. Yep. There you go. Okay, so I always stay on grid is the first important thing I say, and also never overlap blocks. It just basically you're just going to get bad FPS if you do that, and the map gets bigger. It's kind of alright on RIK maps because they're smaller generally, but it's still just not a good idea, and it's so much easier not to do it. So start by creating a floor. If you then like right click, you can then add a player start, which is create player start here. You'll see if this is my floor, I'm now facing the wrong way. So if you hit this button over here, the ZN is a Z-axis rotation. That'll rotate it around to face the right way. So there we can see it's actually inside the floor. So if I select it again, rotate around and just move it above the floor a little bit. Generally don't place them directly on the floor, because I think you can sometimes go in it. So just usually just a little bit above. Again, if you need to go down to a smaller grid size to move stuff around, do it. But I try to keep everything on a grid size of 5, which is the number keys across the top of your keyboard. So I'm using tab to rotate around the view. If you hit space, you duplicate a block. So I hit space now, I'll get exactly the same as a copy, which you can then move around and drag and resize as you see fit, a bit like Dinius was doing. you know, the rotation at the side here also works on these blocks. So if I want to rotate this one round, I can just keep rotating it around like that. Oh, I've got the player start as well. Whoops. That's why. Just copy that. So if I want to rotate this one round, see, there you go. It's just moving around. If you need to do any like height adjustments or anything like that, like you say you want a sloped block, the way you do that is you hit V on your keyboard. It brings up the Vertex editor. You can see now each corner of my block. Actually, what we do first, no, ignore that. Stop the clipper. If you want to trim a block down, say you want to make a triangle, you hit X and it will change from just trying to see what these are, the resize to the clipper tool right down here. Swaps between the two. When you're on the clipper, if you click a point and then click another point, it will kind of mark it like this. If I was to now hit Shift Enter, I get both portions of it. You can see they're now separate entities. Undo that again. Just select it again and do it again. I think if I just hit Enter, I get one of them. Yeah, there you go. So I've only got this side of it now. See, the other part's gone. And I'm not sure how you get the other one. I can't remember. But I tend to just do Shift Enter and delete what I don't need. You can do it across multiple blocks as well. So if I was to do that and kind of say go from here, you don't need to do the whole way, by the way. So like I don't need to go from here to here. I could do that, or I could just do it like this. As long as the line is going to stay straight, it will go across all the blocks that you're touching. So if I do something like, I go from here. No, I don't want to go from there. Where do I want to go from? Let's go from like here to there. If I hit Shift Enter, you'll see I've now got 4 different pieces. So if I remove that, I've got like an angled curve, and then you'll notice that now this is all still on grid. So I can still move this around like I see fit. It's on grid. That's the way you want to do kind of curves like that, rather than any other way really. Any like slants or anything you can do like that. If you want to do like angled blocks, like a slope or something. So first off, we'll start by making a slope. So I think I kind of want it to start sloping from about here. So I'm just going to snip that and keep both parts, and then here I'm going to do the same. So we have a flat bottom and a flat top. There you go. So now the midsection, I used X there to cut both bits, and now I've got like a midsection here. What I can then do is if I rotate around to the side view and go to the Vertex editor, which is you press V, you'll see all these green vertices come up on the blocks I've selected. You see it from the top. Obviously remember this is in a 3D space, so each corner has its own bit. These two are separate blocks, so that you can see where these points are, there's actually more than one kind of thing. It's both edges. So what I'm going to do now is I'm at the side on view. If I hold Shift and click and drag, I'll select everything inside that. Because we're in the Vertex editor, I'll select all vertices, and you'll see all of these ones have gone blue, whereas the other end has stayed green. What I can then now do is either use my keyboard or my mouse to drag these vertices down or up. You can see as I do it, the middle, this one here is sloping or changing as it needs to. I tend to use arrow keys because it's just easier to kind of drag stuff down. So if I bring that down to say there, you can see we've got a bit of a slope going on now. This one's now too high, so just drag that down and meet it. Straight away you can see we've now got a bit of a slope, some stuff going on. Let's just go this way for a little bit more further. We'll just drag out, make it a bit longer. Can't think what else I can show you really. I'm just going to carry on making this map. I have no idea where this is going to go, so we could end up with a really shitty one. So we've got like a bit of a downward slope. I'm not sure if that's long enough, but we'll leave it as is. A left hand turn. Let's do a right hand turn. So duplicate that one up. You don't have to duplicate these up. You can just draw them. Some good tricks are like, if you select this one and you're above it, you can click and drag, and the only dimensions it will adjust are the ones you're selecting. So you'll see straight away that it's the right thickness because it's matched the thickness to the one I was previously selected. So from above I can then just kind of click and draw, and it will make all these brushes that are the right thickness. Similarly, if I go to the side on view and select this one and I make it you know, this fin, it's actually the right width because the kind of the proportion that I can't see it matches. How do you delete brushes? You hit R, so R on your keyboard. That removes them. Control Z for undo. R for that. Q is also deselect. So if I select this one and I hit Q, it will deselect the brush. So Q for deselection, R for removal, Control Z for undo. That's how I always remember it. And again, I apologise for the noise. There's lots of banging and stuff going on around me at the moment. You also have, if you want to do any other kind of rotations, you have the rotate and scale option here. I'll bring this over from my other window, hold on. Where you can kind of manually adjust the rotations. I don't like doing this very much. What I would prefer to do is something like this. Say I want to rotate a platform of like 45 degrees. I prefer to do something like this, where I kind of have that, and then kind of do something like that. Well, I don't know what everyone else does. I sort of like, it kind of depends how you feel, how you fancy doing it, but I kind of prefer doing something like that. But you could also do it by grabbing this one, duplicating it, just move it out a bit, and rotate it, say 45 degrees. I could then put it like, say, see, this is why I don't like rotations, because it goes off grid straight away. If you hit, I believe it's G. You hit G, it snaps it back to grid. So if you do any rotations, hit G afterwards and it will snap it back. So it's now all on grid. And what you would then do is grab the clipper tool by hitting X, chop across here, and you'd need to grab that previous segment, which you can do by, if you hold shift and drag, it'll select everything in that area. If you carry on holding shift and drag somewhere else, it will remove whatever else is selected. So by doing that, it selects both. If I then select the singular, it gives me just a one that I can then remove it. And you can then see I've got two different parts of the brush there now, and they don't overlap. Okay, I just made them really small. How do you mean made them really small? So let's keep that. We may as well keep that. So I'm just gonna move it to the end. We'll do it somewhere like there, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, let's do it there. And what we'll do is we'll match it up. So I'm just gonna hit X and go across here like that. It's a bit weird, but whatever. I don't really care. We could just do that for now. Then at the end of this, let's just have a little kind of ramp jump, why not? So what I'll do for the ramp jump is probably, let's think. See, we're kind of angled now, which is awkward because we can't just drag a square out like this now. So what I would probably do is grab this one, move it to like there. Just move it out of the way a sec. Grab the clipper, go across straight. So I've now got a rectangular brush that I can now put on there and work with. Vertices editor, or even actually if I can just click and drag to make this smaller, let's do something to say about that big. Go side on, which is awkward because we're at an angle, so it's kind of hard to see. That's probably the best way to view it. If I hit V, I can then select the vertices on one of the edges, which is really awkward because I can't work out where I am. Easiest way to do it actually is go to the top, hit V, shift select. You see these two are blue now. I can then go side on, which is really odd to see, and I can just drag it upwards a bit to make my ramp. Oh yeah, R is way more useful, definitely. Do you know what I'm going to do, right? Because this is really stupid of me. I'm just going to get rid of these angled ones. It's kind of annoying. Let's go back to where we had it a minute ago. There we go. Oops. Let's because it's going to just ruin it. But yeah, so kind of when you go to angles, it's a bit more, it's a bit tougher. So I recommend if you do angles like that, do it and then come back to being straight again as soon as you can, because it'll just help out. It just takes forever, otherwise that you kind of, it just makes everything more difficult. But let's just keep going with this. We're going to go around this way. I'm off grid again. You can see there I'm off grid. If I just tap 5, 4, just to put it back on grid, then I can just go back up. You can also hit G again to snap it to grid, but I prefer doing it that way. So let's just rotate this one as well. I'm just going to go back this way. Bit of a 180. And then, like I said, we're going to do like a little ramp jump. So here I'm going to draw on the end of this one. You can see again it's made at the right thickness. I'm going to go probably like that sort of length. We'll go side on, hit V for the vertex editor, grab the 2 points by using shift select. That is the wrong 2 points. That'd be these 2 points. You can see here it's selected the edge 4. Now if I just tap them up, you can see I get a little bit of a ramp. But that is, I don't know if you can see, but that's like this is the wrong texture. So just when it's selected, just double click on your textures here, or go back to media, and then just find another texture. Like I quite like the green at the moment, dark green. Apply to texture. You go into textures window. You can see now I've got 2 in there that's loaded. So a little ramp, and that's the top view. Just create another brush going this way. I'm going to dupe this one. And I'm thinking somewhere about here. Now obviously there's a ramp there, so they're going to go up a little bit higher. So maybe just go up to like here. Obviously this is all guessing, and you're probably going a bit fast at that, so I might need to come out a little bit. So let's say somewhere like here. A little bit of length on it. And maybe what we do is we go back across the map just for the hell of it. Why not? Let's don't need that anymore. Rotate back around this way. I'm off grid again, so just drag it back on again. Go to like there. I think how much did that? That's 2. So I'll probably go to like here. Create another ramp brush. Go side onto it, hit V. Give it a little bit of height, and there we go. And we duplicate this brush here. Put it directly opposite. I think that's directly opposite. It is. And again, it's a ramp jump, so that's the top of the ramp. So we're just going to go a little bit higher, somewhere like there. Give it a little bit of a run out. So now you can see we've kind of got, I mean obviously it's an unofficial start point, but we've got like a player start. You come down, you go round, little ramp to a little ramp, and you go up to here. Now from this you might want to make some walls, so you know, wall in the area. That's what I would recommend you do, to kind of start drawing out your wall thickness however you want it. Rotate around and see how high you want it. So you can see I created one there like that. Then above it, duplicate it and drag it across to the other side. And because we've got this selected, now when we draw brushes like that, you'll see they're the right height, the same height as this. So what we can now do, just select that one, then draw from here to here at the same width for 32, and you'll see that the height is automatically matched. So now we've got our walls kind of in place. For these curved walls, these sloped ones, what you want to do is drag down and go side on, hit V, select them, and just drag them down to match the slope. And obviously because it's the same slope on the other side, you can just hit space, go back to the top view and copy it over to the other side. You can see there we've got 2 walls. Now of course these are kind of boring walls, so you probably want to make them a little bit more interesting. So you can do that maybe using the clipper tool. So for instance, say we wanted to add a green stripe around all of these, what I would do is I'd probably get rid of all of these for a second. Just grab one of them, go side onto it, so I'm basically looking at it, you know, this way on. Hit X, go down to see what grid size I want. This grid size is fine, and see where I want to make some. So I think about here is good. I'm gonna make an incision and then just do another one below it. And you'll see now I've got 3 different blocks with a midsection here. I can either remove it just so I got a gap, or in my case I want to make it green, so I'm going to make it green. Then what I can then do is select all three of them, go above again, copy it, let go of X so I'm not using the clipper tool. You see there, now I've got another wall. If I copy it again, put it this way, I can then rotate it around the axis and just stretch it into place, and you'll see there now I've got like something like that. If I then select these three again, duplicate it and put it on this edge, you see now that the slope is going down. If I hit V, go side on like I was doing, select all of the points. It's important that you select all of them, otherwise the slope will be different. And then you can just drag that corner down again like we were doing earlier. Hit space to duplicate it, go above, drag it across the other side, and there's that. You've now got your thing happening. Now obviously this one, if I was to duplicate this one, it'd be sloped, which is okay but not ideal. I'm just going to go back and select this one, duplicate it, bring it back down here. You see it's at the wrong height, so we'll just go match it up. It's quite easy if you know where your lines are, you can match it up quite easy. And in this case it almost fits perfectly. Go back above, we'll stretch it out by 1. Duplicate, rotate it around. Put it back on grid. Drag it all the way up to the next section. And you can start to see it taking shape quite easily. Things like these, you may want to style the ramps. I'm not going to do any more with the walls, you can kind of get that. You may want to style the ramps. Again, just use the clipper tool. What I would suggest doing is go from above, grab the clipper tool using X, and do something like this. You select, Shift Enter, select, Shift Enter. Now you've got a midsection, maybe you want to make that white. Do it like that, or maybe that's not good enough. You then select the midsection again, and you clip the edges. Oops, not on the clipper tool. There you go. Now I've got the two edge pieces. I can also colour green, and I've got a bit of a thing. Now Dinius likes to make gaps. I know other people do as well. So you kind of shift. My mouse is stuck. What the hell? So select them all. Just nudge them down by 1. You've now got a little bit of a gap in place. I'm not going to do any more on that. I'm not going to save it yet. The other thing you need for start and stop points is, the other thing you need for runs is start, stop, and checkpoints. So to do those, all you do is come to wherever you want your point. So I'm going to make mine just before the slope, right? So you can see the slopes here. You draw a brush out. Now you can see it's the wrong size and it's way below the floor. I'm just going to bring it up. Make sure I'm not in the clipper tool. Bring it up, make it the height I want. I don't really want it above the walls, so we'll make it the same height as the walls. Go into media, go into your textures and go into common, and there's one in here called trigger. Now I would recommend you apply that to all your checkpoints, because quite simply it makes it obvious to spot. If you make them all base, you can't tell whether it's a solid wall or a trigger or what, so make it trigger. It'll be in your textures window from now on, so you can just use it on everything you create. Then what you do is, with this one selected, you just go and put the rest of your places in. Now you don't need to set them yet, so we're just going to decide where we want them. So we're going to say we want one here, so they can't cut the course. That's the wrong height and the wrong texture, so we're going to select trigger, drag it down, so it fits. We'll put another one just before the slope. Make sure it's the right place. Yep, and you can see it's automatically doing the height for me. And we'll do one up here before this ramp. And you can see it's the wrong height again, so we're just going to have to drag that up to put it in front. And then finally, if the finish line is going to be here, we're going to put the finish line just before it. We're going to make a finish line here. Whoops, I still had that one selected. Make sure I unselect with Q. And there we go, we made another one, again too low, so we'll just drag it up to the right spot. Okay, so now that's all our start, stop, finish line, checkpoints, etc. all in. So what you then need to do is go around and select them, and you right click and you set create timer on start. That's now our starting point, that's our start trigger. Then we go to the next one along, right click that one and say create a checkpoint, and we do it again, right click, create a checkpoint, right click, create a checkpoint. Then the final one is the finish line, so we're going to do right click, create timer on stop. I think that's right, is that right? Create timer on stop. If you want to ever put them back to triggers, you can just, back to brushes, just do revert to world spawn. You can then do it again and go create timer on stop. There you go. I'm not sure how you do the shoot points. I think you do something and you apply a texture of target maybe. And then you right click and add shoot blue, add shoot yellow to it, and it will make them, but I'm not 100% on that. You have to look that one up on the forums or ask Dinius. Then when you save it, we'll give it a name. We're just going to call it test underscore tutorial. Now, like I was saying, if you do a quick compile, it will do the skyboxes for you. So when you play the map, you're going to get textures like this, and it should fix the skyboxes for you. You don't need to do them. See what happens. There we go. So you can see they all look the same, but our start point's in. Go around the map. Our other checkpoint's in. Our other one's in. And there's our finish. So it does work, although this is a pretty tight. I didn't do the paths wide enough maybe. Now if I was to go back, if I do a normal compile, it's going to complain. And it's complaining because failed normal compile of test. It'll probably tell me somewhere in here that it's leaked entities or something. What you need to do is create a skybox around it for it to be playable in a normal run and for it to compile the textures. To do that, what you do is you zoom out a little bit on your map, you draw a brush all the way around it. Generally try and make it quite tight to the edges of the map unless they're going to be using those areas. If people are going to be, basically if people crash into this, they're going to stop. So you need to make sure it's not close, not too far away, that it's massive, but at the same time not so close that they're going to bump into it. Then what you want to do is rotate round, go to the other view, and make sure it fits. Remember, people are going to be bouncing off this ramp. If they bounce off it really high, you don't want them hitting their head. Then what you do is you go to textures, you go to media, you go to your common, and you set it to cork. Apply. Cork is like a non-texture. It's kind of like a rendering thing for the engine, so that it doesn't have to render this texture. You set to cork. Now, all of your map is now encased in this box. What you then do is over here on the left, there's this make room button. Click that, and it's now made a room. So each one of these is now its own brush. And what you do is you use Control, which selects just the face, and you Control click each face. Okay. And when once you've done that, you go back to Media, and you go to scroll down to Skyboxes, find some skies, and you select skies. You apply it to selection, and you can now see that it's applied this sky to all of our box. The outside is still cork because we used Control to click, but the inside is now this sky texture. Now when we save that and do a normal compile of this one, it should now not complain because the skyboxes are in. Right, that's now worked. If I hit play, we should have a sky and all of our white and green should be showing up as we expect. Let's wait for it to load. There we go, it's loaded. You can see our white and green. We can jump all the map as we see fit. We've got a proper sky as well now. That's that. That's the run straight there. Now in the editor you can do some, in Radiant you can do some other things that are helpful. You can use layers. Layers are, I find, very helpful for manoeuvring a map around. Quite often I'll select all of the skyboxes like this, and I will right click, hit create layer called Skybox, I'll then right click, add to layer, skybox. Now that adds all the brushes I've selected to the skybox. And then what I do, no, it should have collision, it should respawn you, I believe. Then the other thing I do is I hit remove from layer default. Now what that does is, if I go to view layers, I get this layer window. If I untick skybox, they disappear, and I can shift click everything like normal. If I show the skybox and I shift click, I'll select the ceiling, because it's the closest thing to where my mouse is clicking. So sometimes you just need to get them out of the way, so I'd like to create a layer for the skybox that ticked. It's only a visual thing, it doesn't do anything to the map, it doesn't change anything, it's actually only in the editor that it helps you. As soon as you compile it, it's no different, and even if you send someone a .map, the layers are actually stored in a different file, so they won't get the layers. But I find it very helpful. Things I also do, I like to do a lot as well, is these green ones that we selected, I will put these in as a separate layer. So I'll select all of these green ones, hold up. I'll do this one as well, why not? Okay, and you can see now all the green ones selected, and what I'll then do is right click, create layer, walls dash color. Okay, and then I'll right click again and remove from layer default. So now if I look at the walls and I untick the walls color, sorry, untick wait, what did I do? Okay, maybe I didn't do that right. Hold on, I don't think I added them. Hold up, I created the layer but I didn't add them to it. Just reselect them all again. Green, 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 green. Right click, add to layer, walls color. Okay, apparently I broke it. The hell? What have I done? What I'm going to do is, actually I'm going to do move to layer, because move to layer does both. If I do move to layer walls color, hopefully, there we go. So now when I untick, you can see them disappear. Which is, what that means is, if I click the actual button for walls color, you can see they will select when I click that button. If I untick them, they disappear. If I retick them and click the button again, they will come back as colors. What that means is, say I've decided that I don't want it green anymore, I can change it. I'll just go in here, go to base, and I'm going to go and find a red. Right click it, apply texture to selection, and there you go, now they're all red. Click it again, change my mind, I want purple, apply it, there you go, I've now got a purple one. So sometimes it's quite helpful to have layers in your map, although they're only a visual kind of editing function for while you're using Radiant. They can be very helpful to just hide the skybox, show the skybox, and select colors, and select defaults and stuff. It's really helpful. You can also do it to triggers. You can select all of your triggers like this, and then you can do right click, create layer, triggers, and then right click, move to layer, triggers. Always then to hide those, you can see they disappear, and then you don't need to worry about them again. You can just leave them turned off and just edit the map. You only care about the run, really. I mean, the checkpoints and stuff are obviously important, but you don't need to play with them all the time. You can just get rid of them. And again, I've decided I don't like that color. Let's go back to red. There you go. We now got dark red. So yeah, it's kind of like layers you can use very, very much to help you out. I'm trying to think of something else I need to tell you. Stairs, I guess I could show you how to make stairs. Dinius, I used to do them like this, where I'd come side on. Let's select this brush, where is that? It's up there, okay, we'll do it up here. So I used to do it like this, where I'd just come side on and I'd kind of just drag the thing up. Let's set these to the right texture, there we go. And I'd do it like this, where I'd make the stairs. But Dinius does it actually a better way. Dinius does it like this. What he does is he starts off and he makes the highest part of the step. Let's say it's that high. And he'll copy it, move it down, copy it, move it down. So he keeps it in space and just dragging it a lot faster. Then he'll select them all, hit space, and duplicate all of them. Make all the stairs. Bring them all down to the floor, right? So the floor level is to this one. There we go. So now get rid of all of those. Then what he does is he selects them all like this. Hits X for the clipper tool. Clicks here, goes straight across. And you can see now there's a selection difference between them all. Then he will select all of the ones that he doesn't want. Get rid of that one because I don't want that one. Hit R, and there you go. You've now got a set of stairs all the way up. And if I turn back on my triggers, Radiant has stopped working. Brilliant. Radiant crashed. Nice. Let me just start that back up. Hopefully it's saved. Oh, I didn't. Anyway, you get the idea with stairs. So that's the way Dinius makes stairs. I think that's the better way, rather than dragging them all out. There's some things you can do in the RIK dev tool. If you right click, you can rename. So let's actually call this test-tutorial. There we go. I would recommend you probably close it in Radiant and where is it? Test tutorial. Reopen it again. There you go. You know, there's other things like you can right click it and show .mapping folder, so this will show you the maps folder. When you do a final compilation, you can kind of hit ready for upload and you hit this and it'll zip the file for you and give you a zip file with all the stuff you need to do. You then can go to the ProjectRIK website. Let me just go there on my other screen. Sorry. I don't know when it stopped working. Brilliant. Did you hear about the stairs? Okay, cool. Right, that's fine then. So I think the basic things you need to remember are shift, click, and drag to select things. It can select multiples. You can shift, click again to remove stuff from it. So say I select all of this, and then I want to get rid of these couple of bits. I can then shift, click, and I've now only got those bits. Control Z for undo, Q to deselect, R to remove. X swaps between selection like this and the clipper like so. Shift enter to use the clipper and it will give you both parts. Space, duplicate. Make sure your triggers always get set as with a texture of trigger. Just makes it easier to spot them. And they don't really get in the way otherwise. You know, if that one was white, you wouldn't be able to tell it from the other walls. What else? You got your Z-index rotation over here, as well as your Z-index flip. Z-index Y-axis rotate, Y-axis flip, X-axis rotate, X-axis flip, depending on what you're doing. You can also go to modify, rotate, and scale to do it in specific increments. but again, just be careful. Sometimes going off grid can be annoying. Your numerical keys above your keyboard change between grid size, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I say I quite like 5, and if I do want to do anything big, I go up to 7. I think that's kind of all you need to know. Oh, didn't you show me this the other day that I didn't know you could do? If you control, I think it's if you control middle mouse on a texture, it selects it as red. If you then middle mouse on stuff, you can paint it. Yeah, that's it. So you hold control and hit your middle mouse button, and it will select that colour in the texture window, or that texture in the texture window. As you can see, I'm clicking between white and red here, holding control and middle mouse. By then just middle mouse on its own, I can go around and paint all the textures where I'm clicking, which is quite helpful if you want to just go around and colour a map pretty quick. It's probably helpful if I show you maybe a completed map. If I show you, probably rudimentary is probably the easiest one to view, and it's probably got a lot of layers as well, which will be helpful. I won't go into curves because they're a pain in the arse, but you can see with Rudy, if I go to layers, I've got a fair amount of layers. So I've got idle, yeah, skybox layer, which is missing a side because I'm stupid. Floor. So this is the main bits of the floor. Floor 2, floor 3, floor edges. Apparently this layer's mucked up. I'm not really sure what's going on here. They're not very good. Just ignore those. But yeah, so there you go. That's the. This is rudimentary. You can see these are all separate brushes. What I've done to do these like little end bits, all I did was hit V, go to the side-on view of it, like this, and I just dragged one edge, a bit like you create a ramp. But yeah, it's like a styling point. The triangle, I used the clipper tool. So you. It's a bit on the big grid size. Let's do it out of here. Where did I make that? Not sure it even made it. That looks weird. Let's do it inside the skybox, shall we? Over in this corner. Where's that? Yeah. Layers, skyboxes, hide. What the hell? Okay, let's get rid of those. Why am I not creating brushes? Something's not right. A radiant's broken or something. I'm not even getting the edges, it's weird. I don't know what's going on there. But you can kind of see how it's all constructed. All these little components make up the one big map. And originally I had it that all the railings were one thing, the edges of the floors are one thing. You know, this is like a different floor to this bit. You can just see how it's kind of constructed together. But triangles, you basically make a square, then cut it in half. And we did some extra stuff to get the little triangle in the middle. This was like Dennis's little creation. Kind of take a square and just chop it up a little bit. Make some cool stuff. And like the other thing I didn't show you, I guess, is you can use the Vertex editor from on up top. So, say I wanted to do some kind of angled curve, or sorry, some kind of angled thing, I could do that. Hit V, select the bottom 2 points, and just drag it like that. You see there now I've got an angled thing that's on grid. That's probably the way to do the 45-degree thing I was doing earlier. Actually, thinking about it, you do something like this where you drag it like that. You deselect the point, select the one point you want, and drag like that. And now you've got like a kind of that trapezium shaped brush, but it's at a 45-degree angle and it's all on grid. I mean, obviously that doesn't link anything up, but if I was to do it, I don't know, say here to here, I could do something like this where I drag these two to here, drag these two to like here, and then make this one go to here. You can see now I've got like a 45-degree path, and it doesn't overlap. It's all on grid, so I can drag it around, and yeah, perfect. So hopefully that should give you enough of an idea of how to kind of play around with the map editor. You just click and drag to make things smaller. It's all pretty. Once you kind of get used to it, it's quite easy to use. Should give you a bit of a starting point though. Like I said, I'm not great at it. Like, I only learned how Dinius does his stairs the other day, and I didn't know how to do that painting stuff with the middle mouse, and I'm still kind of learning how to do certain things. And like, teleporters are a bit weird, but to be honest, you probably won't need to use them. If you do, ask Dinius. He's working on some teleporter stuff anyway. I mean, obviously this map is a bit small, a bit tight, but I mean, it's possible. Yeah, I probably will do. It just gives enough information for people to figure it out. You honestly don't need much more than that. I have no idea how you do lighting and stuff. I just use the skyboxes that are currently here. There will be more skyboxes in the future, but for now we've only got a few to work with. Is there anything else you need? Don't think there is. Oh, the only other thing that might help you is on the ProjectRIK website, on the forum. Bring this over here. If you go into level design, scroll down, there's one here called Mapping 101. This thread, right? In here, there's some cool information. Like, here, these heights and measurements, right? The player width is 30 units. So that matches up to radiant when you do that. X32, that means it's 2 units bigger than a player. So similarly, you then have jump heights, max jump heights, recommended step height. So every step on a stair, how much higher it should be. The minimum height, the maximum height. The double jumps, so you know, like double jumps, there's one in Rudy where you have to double jump up. 64 is the recommended, but you can probably get away with others. Crouch height is 64, and the normal player height, it says walk, but like imagine if you were standing still when your head was hitting the ceiling, that would be 80 high. They can be useful if you're trying to work out how big a player is. Say you wanted to go for a gap. If I show you, again guys, apologies for all the noise. If I show you, I don't want to open that one. If I show you surf, PSC surf, and I go to this bit here. I used to have the trigger there, I didn't see that. Dinius has been working on this map a little bit for me because I got a little bit sidetracked. So if I go so that I'm looking at the wall, it's hard to see, but if I select these 4, you can see there's the 4, right? If I create a brush between them, like that, you see it's 128 Z, which is like the height. So I knew that it was going to be about 40, this height is about 40 more units. Well, I prefer to refer to it as thirds, right? So if you imagine a player's 80, that's about half, it's about an extra 50% height than the player. And if you take the crouch height is what, 64. So yeah, 64. So it's actually double if you crouch. So you may need some information like that, working out stairs and player whips and other things if you want to do, you know, small gaps and bits like that. Yeah, this is an idea. This picture here is like how you should do the use the clip tool to do certain walls. This example is not overly bad, but he is right. Generally, the left one is better than the right. But yeah, it just depends what you're doing. Sequence and levels as the slope. But yeah, the way I would recommend anyone starts doing this is make a run. Don't worry about shortcuts. Don't worry about walls or anything like that. Just make the floor. Start with the floor. Then just run it. Just go run and jump it, and pretend as if the walls were there. To make it as if, you know, if you don't want them to cut a corner, you imagine a wall there and you don't cut the corner, and just see if your run's possible. If your run is possible, then sweet. You make a run that you enjoy, and then you go and add the walls in. You go and add a wall here, a wall there. You add a little, you know, maybe some styling, something like in Piercy Ethos. You see, like, I've got these styling points. Let's find some. This is a better picture. Like these kind of things. There's no need for those. I'll put those in afterwards. Originally, this was just a flat area. These angled curves, originally, I didn't bother with those. They were just square. And there was no little gaps. There was no blue things. I just did the run. There wasn't even a gap at the top here. It was all flat. The gap didn't come until later. So yeah, just kind of make your run. Figure out how you want your run. Then you can go through and add walls and styling, and maybe it'll evolve. Maybe while you're making the walls, you'll find a way to do something better or do something more fun, and then you can change it and tweak it. And yeah, but always, in my opinion, always start with the floor. Make something based on the floor, then go around. And again, you don't even need to bother with the checkpoints until right at the end. You can just imagine where the checkpoints are going to be. If you're trying to target a specific timeline, then maybe you want to add a start and stop finish, so that you know how long the run is. Like, say you want to make it at least 30 seconds. If you go and put start and stop in, it will time you, so you know. Like my surf map, I wanted it to make it above 50 seconds long, so I kept putting in stuff as I went along, just so that I could see how you know, how far that was to that checkpoint and things like that. But you know, that's kind of just for that usage. Hopefully that'll give you enough to kind of start with. But you can make maps very quickly once you get used to it. Very, very quickly. I can show you, I mean, I feel bad for showing this, but at the same time I don't really care. Jump over the Rainbows maps that he uploaded. It's just, if I open those in Radiant quickly, you'll kind of see the difference. I mean, first I've got to bloody find it. Because I don't know why, but camera's miles away. There we go. So if I go in here, the start point is here. Alright, so the first thing I noticed was, see this here? This is the start trigger. If I zoom in. Yeah, they're bad. It's base. It's the same colour as the floor. I didn't know it was a trigger. So grab the texture, go into media, go into textures, base extension, go down to trigger. No, not base extension, sorry. It's in common. Go down to textures, apply texture, trigger, there you go, instantly. Now I know it's the start point. I can see the player start, and then I can assume that the trigger in front of it is probably going to be the start point. Then similarly, where all the blocks stop, that's probably where the finish is. I don't even know if he has actually a start trigger. Oh, I think he does, I think it's a huge one. Yeah, look, it's massive. I thought that was the floor. But it's not, it's the trigger, it's the finish line. So, set that to trigger as well. Straight away. Then like this here, these, I mean, Hoopo highlighted this, but you don't really want to overlap brushes like that. It's really not very good. So, if I was to go over there now, you probably just want to do something like this. Just grab your clip tool, hit X, go from there to there, chop along there, chop along there. Then what we would then do is select all of those, get rid of that one, delete that. select that brush. I just want to chop the end off there as well, like that. So then if I select these and select just this one, delete that, you can now see I've got this one through the middle. Sorry, can't even get there. View it. So I've got this one here, separate block, separate block, separate block, separate one, separate one. There's nothing overlapping there, and that's how you want to do it really, because otherwise you get some kind of lag. Obviously it's a lot easier to do it like this, but it's not ideal. And I mean, this is probably supposed to be a triangle, so I'd probably use the clipper and then just cut here. What I'd probably do is, if I go back to Vertex editor, to make it back as a square roughly, hit X to go to the clipper, go from corner to corner like that, select the one I don't want, and there you go. You now got a nice triangle. This one I'd probably grab the clipper. I mean, this one's probably not ideal, but what you would do is you'd grab the clipper, you go from the end point to the finish point like that, and then same again, end point to there, then highlight the middle, get rid of the bit you don't want, and now you've got two separate brushes with that bit. It's kind of exactly how you want to do it. I'm not sure what that is. Is that another trick? Is that another checkpoint? Yeah, that's another checkpoint. This one's green. I don't know why this one's green. Make it texture. Make it a thing. There you go. And like these, they're not on grid at all. So if I hit 5, you can see how the grid points are there. If I just hit G, it lines them all back up for me. So now they're on grid. It's still not ideal because but at least now when I drag them around, they're all going to snap to grid. It just makes it easier, it makes the rendering easier, it makes your map less laggy for FPS. I'm selecting the floor as well, whoops, oh well. But yeah, there's lots you can do. I mean, this one here, just a weird shape, and it could be fine, but there's just lots of little things that you can do to make. I mean, they're not even that important. Like, if you wanted to make all of your checkpoints this blue, it's kind of fine, because if they're always that blue, then sure, why not? But the convention is to use the trigger texture, and realistically, it's what it's there for. So you should probably use it for what it's designed for. And then anyone else who reads your maps will see the same thing. I mean, if I was to look at this side on, for instance, I mean, let's look at it from the top first. You can see how it's all... Actually, yeah, it is. It's all off grid. Look, you can see there, the points are not on. If I go to the side on, again, you can also see that it's just off grid. Whereas if he'd have done it like... If he'd have done something like this, where he made a square like that, let's make it white like he's done. And then if you wanted it angled, you just use the vertex tool, grab it, drag it down like that. Say, what's his? Let me move it a sec. There you go. Make it roughly the same as his. There you go. That's roughly the same. That would almost do the same thing. Then I can go the other way and above or whatever, and kind of work out how he wants it rotated. So it's probably these two. Something like that. It's almost taking shape, and it's all on grid. It's just, it seems minor, but it will really help how quickly you can design maps. It will help how long it takes to compile, how long it takes to render, how good the FPS is in the game. It just makes everything easier. So yeah, on grid, try not to rotate too much. If you do, just try and do it at 90 degrees and stuff. If you need anything angled, use the clipper and the vertex tools, which is X and V, and then everything will probably be just fine. I mean, if you do want to do shapes like this, of course, there's nothing wrong with this shape particularly. Like, if you want to do odd shapes all over the place, that's fine. You can just create a square, grab the vertex tool, and just malform it a little bit. There you go. There's nothing wrong with that block whatsoever. If that's what you wanna, if that's your look. But to then have it kind of overlapping like this is not what you really want. And I wouldn't say his maps are like overly terrible. Like there's nothing particular. Like this map, for instance, this map's nice. It's good, you know, it's quite pretty. It could actually turn into quite a good run if he releases it. But again, just texture. Make it a trigger. Like, cause this one again, I didn't know that was a trigger. And in his defense, he probably hasn't used this tool before and didn't know the trigger texture existed. So he was probably using white and green to know, you know, green was his checkpoints and white was his start point. It's probably helpful for him. These all look fine, all on grid. This is where it will probably start getting a bit weird. Yeah, look, straight away it goes off grid. Whereas for this, you could easily, like, that's just an angled slope, right? What you would do is create a brush next to it. Go floor thickness, which is probably about that thick. His moves over a little bit, so we're just going to get the bottom end across like that. Yeah, look, there you go. That's almost perfect. And then his, where is it? That one. So his slopes down a bit, so we'll just grab the corners, drag this edge down this way. And his slopes as well, so we have to go the other way a bit. So we take this edge, drag it down a bit like this. I mean, it's not perfect, but you can see I've now created almost the same thing that's completely on grid. And if I then wanted to clip that with a clipper, it's all on grid, so I just go like that, snip. Not like that, but yeah, you get my point. You've now got a tool that you can work with. It will make your life a lot easier to do things on grid and kind of in the proper way. And it isn't much. I don't think it's any extra effort. In fact, I think it's more effort to do something like this and drag it around than it is, because you know you've got to try and get that and that lined up to be perfect. Can't collect it. There you go. That distance might be the same there because he did it, but if you ever wanted to get that distance again, you probably wouldn't be able to do it. Whereas when it's on grid, it's a lot easier. This map could be quite a nice run with some tweaks though. I played this map earlier. And with some little tweaks he could make this better. I need to make that really, because I'm like halfway between. That's what I will say, is I don't feel like it's very well balanced, but he might not have balanced it yet. Yeah, there's a nice little gap there that you can go through if you're more skilled than I am. I have made it through that gap. But yeah, this is not actually a bad map if you... If maybe some tweaks and a little bit of like playtesting and stuff, this could not be that bad. But I would definitely go around and fix some of the off-grid stuff and make that better. I finished it. See, that's not a bad map in my opinion. I quite like this. Just the actual... It just could do with a little bit of love. And his styling on it isn't too bad either. It's not a... They're quite pretty looking pads. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with this either. Like, this wall, although these are probably all rotated, in an instance like this, rotating them is probably the best way to do it, because you want something a bit random, a bit funky. So, you know, there is a time and a place to rotate things, but generally speaking, you don't need to. I want to get through that gap. See, like here, I'm over jumping. I'm having to like strafe around to reach it. It's a little awkward, but yeah, it's not a bad map. I think this could be quite enjoyable for people if he releases it. I think this one's a definitely a better example than the first one. See, like here, I'm just gonna overjump straight away. And I believe it is possible. I haven't really done it yet, but I'm sure it's possible to get up to the top bit. Yeah, so nothing wrong with his per se, but just you can make your life a lot easier if you follow some simple rules when mapping, like staying on grid. And like this, for instance, see these skyboxes. You should go common, cork, apply to cork, then go inside, and if I control mouse that, make it just the inside the skybox. So that the rendering engine doesn't need to render all of the outsides. So just make it cork, and then select all of the insides like so using control click. Then you can select skies, and now you've got all of the outside corked, and it doesn't need to render that, which means everyone's FPS will just be that little bit better. Finish point, media. We go here. Trigger. Apply. Right, anyways, I think that's a good enough kind of intro for you. I think you probably found out a lot of information from that. I will highlight the video so you can go back and watch it all, but there's a lot of tutorials around for other stuff, but I think that will give you a basic understanding. And hopefully with using the video from this and Dinius's map, you'll get some better. And it looks like it's time for me to go anyway, because my internet is now cutting out, which is why the stream's lagging. So, good luck, have fun, enjoy making maps. If you need any help, feel free to ask on the forums, or when I'm streaming or something, we can ask a question. I'll see if I can demonstrate it and show you. But yeah, cool. Cheers for watching. I'll speak to you later. Bye.